Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the On Wander Lane Sew Along with Material Girls. And this month we are working with Mistletoe. I have Manor there, but it's actually Crossing. I appreciate the patience while we had to postpone last week, but I'm back and ready to present to you this month's project. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So this month, if you are making the larger quilt, okay, that's the end result of what we're putting together here, but I do have some that are doing the individual monthly quilts that these are the blocks that we're doing this month. So we have the present, the tree, the ornament, and then we have our center house block. If you are doing the individual monthly quilt, you will be making 4 trees, 4 ornaments, 4 presents, and the center block. And if you are making the larger quilt with us, you are going to be making one of each of these items that you see here on the screen. And so if you have a question today, please don't hesitate to ask. So this here is the monthly quilt that you also see on the front cover here. And if you're doing the larger quilt, which we're doing here in this video series, this is the larger quilt that we are working on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at what we need to do for the tree. Okay, so we're going to start with the tree. Today we'll come to our center block in a moment. These are the 3 colors that you see, multiple colors that you see here for the tree block. Okay, so let me get that out here. Now in the picture, the graphic looks, the background looks creamier than what it actually is. So let me come to the picture here so that you can see. Let's zoom out a little bit. So we have the 4 colors of green that we're going to be using. We have top tree, tree second, tree third, and tree bottom. We have a few small little 1-inch squares that are used for the ornaments. They do not need to match necessarily the colors that you see in the image. I'm just gonna, okay. They don't need to go in the same place. They don't even need to be the same fabrics. Feel free to put other colors on your tree in the ornaments as long as they're a 1-inch square. It does not matter. And then the background is this more, it's white and gray. The picture, like I said, the graphics make it look a little creamier, but it is not. Okay. I'm going to show you the assembly of one of the layers, okay, of the tree, because it is the same for all of the other layers, just a little bit larger. So we're going to do the top layer here. Note that the fabric on the top layer tree is directional in the fabric. So I would make sure that I cut all of these in the correct order, okay, or the correct direction that we have going on here. So let's see, you have E, F, And then let me get my background squares. So 1.5 by 2 is B, 1 by 2 is C. Okay, so you can see there. And that's a D. The glare from that light above my head, I need to get rid of that light bulb up there. He's in my way. So we are going to take and sew some units together. Okay, so we're going to take our 2 E's and we're going to take our Christmas ornament fabric and we're going to sew them into a strip unit. Okay, so 1/4 inch seam, we're going to sew these 3 units together here. Okay, they are going to go into the block up and down. Okay, so again, pay attention to the directionality of your fabric here if you have an idea as to which direction you want it to go. Once we have this unit sewn, we're going to apply D and E to each side of it. Okay, so we're going to come over to the machine. I'm going to move all of this over here. And using a 1/4 inch seam, I'm using a 1/4 inch presser foot. Sew that one to that. I'm going to finger press my seam towards the ornament. Okay. And then I'm going to add the other green to the other side. Now you're ultimately going to repeat this process with every ornament piece that you have and every 1 inch square that you have in each color combination. Okay, so this is something that I would sit down and do all of this little piecing right here. I would do and just chain piece and get all of your layers together as once. I'm just going to do one at the moment, just for time's sake. So I have my tree fabric, top and bottom, my ornament fabric in the middle, and then I'm going to make sure that the direction of my unit D matches the direction that I have my tree fabric here. I'm going to put them right sides together, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch. And I'm going to put a pin in here. If you've been working along with us the last, I don't know, what are we on, 9 months now? How are you doing? Have you stayed caught up with us? What house are you currently working on? Let's put it that way. Now the only thing I haven't done is all the blanket stitching. I've done it on a few blocks. That's the step I'm behind in, is the blanket stitching, but that always takes the most time anyway. But Material Girls is headed out on retreat the first week of April, and my plan is to sit and blanket stitch the entire retreat. Okay, So now that I have that center section pieced, I'm going to go to the ironing board and we're going to press that seam away from our ornament section. So let's head over to the iron. Here is our unit. Now back over here on the table, we're going to lay this out so that the unit D, the larger unit, is over on the side. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to take a unit A, we're going to lay it right sides together in the corner, and we're going to do a fold back corner, just like we have done in all of our other projects, and we'll do a fold back corner in the other direction as well. And this is going to create the top of our tree. Okay. This unit should be 2 by 3.5, okay, when you are finished. So it's 2 by 3.5 now, and all we're going to do is add our triangle units to the top here. 1 second, let me find my ruler. So I like to pre-cut my fold back corner. Just personal preference. You can draw a line and you can sew on the line if you like. I am going to do it in advance. We're going to sew this, and then we'll press that, and then we'll repeat on the opposite corner. Over to the ironing board. Press that back. We're now going to go repeat this process over here on the right hand side of this item. I'm going to take a letter A background square. I'm going to place it down here. I'm going to pre-trim my corner, pin it in place, and we're going to go sew this 1/4 inch from top to bottom. And then we're going to go over to the ironing board because we need to press him again for the final step. Okay. There is the top of our tree. We're now going to repeat all of these steps that we have done with our other fabrics. Okay, so you have the second row of trees, okay, which are going to be the same concept. We're just going to be working with, you're going to start to use larger rectangles out on the sides once you sew your units together. Okay. The only difference is going to be the very bottom row of the tree has 2 rows of ornaments. Okay, so you're going to make 2 of these units. Okay, and we have a piece that will go in the middle, and then you'll do that same fold back corner that we did earlier, just on a larger piece. Once you have all 4 rows of your tree together, so all 4 rows, then your tree will measure a 6.5 inch square. Okay, and he will be complete. Unless you're making the individual wall hangings, and then you will need to make 3 additional trees for your project. Okay? All right. Just let me know if you have any questions. Next up is going to be the present. Note here that in our kit, the background fabric for this tree does not match the graphic shown here. Okay, so I have the background for this tree is going to match the background of the Christmas tree, or the background of this present, excuse me, is going to match this Christmas tree. We have another directional piece here. Okay, so I want you to just be conscious of those stripes. Now in the graphic, they are showing the stripes as all going the same direction. Okay, in my example here, I am not putting the stripes in the same direction. Give me 1 second and I will show you what's going to go on. Okay. All right, let's take a look at our present. So for me, my present, I didn't want them both going up and down. I didn't care for that. So I actually took my presents, the box of my block, and I have the stripes running horizontal, and I have the stripes running vertical for the bow. Okay, so on the cutting chart for piece J, okay, so let me get, this is J here. J calls for 2 1/4 by 3 1/4, so it's 3 1/4 inches tall. So the 2 1/4 wide, 3 1/4 tall, just so you know which one's the width and which one's the height. And in the box ribbon, he is 1 1/2 inches wide and 4 3/4 inches tall. So that's unit K. Okay. The block is pretty much symmetrical. From one side to the other is the same. Okay. Let's see. This is I. Is this piece? And then you have H is going to be the bow, and then you have the bow center is G. Okay. He's pretty straightforward in terms of how we're going to put him together. Okay. We're going to sew these 2 units together, these 2 units together, and then we will sew this unit to this. We will then attach the box bow or box ribbon to that, and then we'll repeat the process on this side. We need to make the actual bow that we have here before we can start assembling the top. The bow fabric is also directional in its pattern, so it's completely your choice if you want to change to a different fabric or the direction that you cut this. So the bow fabric is 1 3/4 by 1 1/2. He is 1 3/4 wide, 1 1/2 tall. Okay, just so you kind of cut it the direction you need. He's 1 3/4 wide, 1 1/2 tall. The inside corner of this block gets a folded corner. Okay, so we're going to take the little 1-inch squares, do exactly like we just did on the tree, sew from corner to corner, trim 1/4 inch away, and then fold back. Okay, so we have a fold back corner on one side. On the opposite side, it's going to go in the opposite corner. So on this unit, on the left-hand unit, it's going in the upper right. In the right-hand unit, this is going to go in the upper left. And I only point that out in case you are paying attention or using a directional fabric. You're not just going to be able to flip this or rotate it if it ends up on the wrong side. Okay, so we need to make sure that we pay attention to the location of where we put unit C on top of the H fabric. We're going to sew these 2 together here in the center, and then we'll sew this row across. Okay. And note that these are not meant to meet. This is not going to be a point of matching, so do not stress over that area not matching. As you can see, there is a difference there. There is a difference right here between the box and the box lid. Okay, so you have not done anything wrong or miscut anything when you are working on this. They are designed to be 2 different sizes. Okay, sew that row across, and then you're going to attach the unit, he is A of the background, so he's a 1 1/4 by 6 1/2 inch rectangle. We'll sew to the top of that block, and then we will have a 6 1/2 inch square for your project. Okay, questions about that? Next up is going to be our ornament. He's pretty straightforward and easy here for us. We have a gray and white stripe for the top. We have a black on black or a dark charcoal hanger. And then we have the 1 piece for our ornament. And some fold back corners. Okay. So we're going to fussy cut a house graphic from the fabric that's included in the kit, or if you're doing this on your own, you can fussy cut something. You could easily embroider something. This is a 3 1/2 inch square that's in the middle. we give you in the kit, we give you a full piece of fabric. So you could have your choice to put any of these items inside of your ornament. Okay. So let's lay him out here. With our ornament, we're going to completely sew this graphic, our fussy cut piece. We're going to sew our top and bottom G units to the center graphic. We are going to attach the two H units to our middle unit. Okay. Then we have, just going to pretend like we're doing this. And then we're going to sew those H's to the side to give us this. Oh, hold on. Would be this direction. H's on the side and G's top and bottom. There we go. Not had any caffeine yet this morning. I actually haven't had caffeine in almost, I don't know, we're working on almost 48 hours here. Once we have our ornament unit together, we have 4 C squares that we are going to do as fold back corner techniques in each of the 4 corners on this unit. Okay, so that same right sides together, so corner to corner, trim a 1/4 inch away and fold back. Okay, just give you a visual as to what it looks like here. Okay. Once he's complete, we're going to start working on adding our background fabric. So we have background unit, this is D, is going to get sewn to the bottom of the block. We have our ornament hanger, or ornament top, excuse me, is the gray with the stripe. Again, pay attention to the way that it gets cut if you care for the direction of the stripe. This unit is 1.5 inches wide and 1 inch tall. Okay, he is going to get an B unit sewn to each side, and B is 1 inch by 3 inches. Pay very close attention, because the only difference between a B unit and an A unit is 1/4 inch. A units are 3¼ inches long. Okay, B units are 3 inches long. I'll sew those to each side of that unit, sew them together, and then attach them to the top of my ornament unit, resulting in that 6.5 inch ornament square. Okay. All right. That is our 3 squares that go with this month's project. Okay. Now we need to look at putting together our center house unit. Now, when I first open my kit or do my rotary cutting and my prep for this project, I always start with the house block, because these are going to use the largest pieces of fabric that we have. Okay, you have 3 pieces that are going to be used for the house block. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Here they are. They are labeled A, B, and C. Okay, so I'm going to cut those 3 pieces first from my fabrics because I need to make sure that I have the length and the width. You know, once we get that cut out of it, all of this becomes free game if it's included in any of our other squares. This month it's not, but some months they are. After I cut those 3 units, the next thing that I cut is going to be the 2 pieces of fabric that I need for the checkerboard that's at the bottom of my fabric, bottom of my block, okay? And so the checkerboard is going to be D. Again, I cut these before I do any of the cutting for my other blocks because I may not be able to get a 10-inch piece out of this if I cut it up. And this piece here specifically is used in our Christmas tree. So I want to make sure I cut that 1.5 by 10 first. Okay. I'm going to lay out my ABC in the order that I like, or the order that is shown in the graphic. I'm going to sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam, and I pressed my seams away from center. Okay. Ultimately, doesn't really matter which direction they go. You can press them open if you like. Okay. He should be, once you have sewn him together, he should be 12.5 by, I think it's 11.5. Yep, 12.5 by 11.5 is what all your centers should be. We're going to take and sew our strip set together here, and that strip set is then going to get cut into smaller 1.5 inch segments. Okay. I do press this seam open because they're going to be tiny here. And then I'm going to strip cut this into 6 1.5 inch blocks. Now I'm going to use, I like my Stripology ruler because I'm going to line one of the lines up with the line on the ruler. Okay, so I've got a line on the ruler. Again, sorry for the glare. I have to figure out what to do to get rid of that light up there. And I'm going to come over a little past the 0 line. I'm going to drop into this to square up my edge. And then we're cutting 1.5 inch segments. So I know that on the Stripology ruler, everywhere that there is a star is 1.5. So I don't even have to do any math. Okay. Move that. Move this. And there are my segments. I only need 6, so I have 1 extra. That's out of that. And then we're going to work on sewing this together all the way across with 1/4 inch seam, okay, into our checkerboard pattern. And then I will press those units open, and eventually we will sew this to the bottom of our center block. Okay, but I don't want to sew it to the bottom of the center block until my hill, my applique hill, is on, because I want the raw edge of my applique hill to be caught in that seam allowance. Just saves me from having to blanket stitch one more edge. All right, we're going to head over to the iron because it's time to put together our pieces. Okay. So first, as with anything, I'm going to put my hill on. So my hill is going to go here at the bottom. I'm going to make sure that my fabric is going in the order that I want them to be in, and this is the order. I have the sprinkles on the left, the floral on the right. I'm going to score the back. I'll peel off my paper. Get this little guy positioned. And fuse him in place. Okay. There he is. Okay, I'm going to set him to the side because that's done until I get my house together. So looking at the template that's in your pattern, looking at the layout of our unit, we have a branch or a tree that kind of goes up and around here. We have a house unit, and then we have Santa and his reindeer, or Rudolph. Okay, we have a lot of button embellishment that goes with this particular project, and we don't want to put those button embellishments on until after you have quilted this project. Your long armor will greatly appreciate you if you don't put your buttons on. I'm going to start with building this tree here just so I can get him out of the way. I'm just going to kind of put him on my applique pressing sheet. It kind of sticks here, doesn't move on me. And then I have two of one print, and I have three of another. And if you look in the graphics of the project, these two prints she has up here, and then the other three polka dotted ones are on the back end. Again, you can do them however you like. Just want to make sure that everything just slightly touches the main stem or branch, so that when I iron this in a moment and go to remove it, they'll all stick together. Now, if you are using our laser cut kit, all of these little shapes are a little different. So just play around with figuring out which one goes where. It should, for the most part, match the shape that's on the template, because that's how we based the shape in cutting, was off the shape in this template. Okay. Last branch. And I'm happy with all that. I'm just going to set my iron for a second or two down on top of especially the overlapping areas of the applique pressing sheet. I'm going to let that cool while I build Santa. Okay. So with Santa, we have quite a few pieces that are going on with Santa here. So we have to kind of build from the bottom up and maybe do a little rearranging and overlapping. So don't do any ironing until you're sure that everything is above or below what it needs to be above or below. I'm going to start with Santa's base of his coat. Okay. I know that this stripe is going to go down the bottom. And then the cream of Santa's coat. Just trim. We have a beard. But under his beard is also going to go his face. So I'm going to get this beard in place first. I need to make sure that the beard overlaps the white of his trim and it's up high enough that it's going to get underneath of the hat at the top. And there is a piece of peach. It's going to go there. And we have a mustache. Nancy Halverson's Santas have always been my favorite. By far, I love Nancy's Christmas stuff. Her Christmas and her patriotic are some of my favorites. Santa's hat. And okay. Now, looking at the image that we have here, we kind of have the reindeer's scarf kind of comes underneath of his coat over here on the side. His mitten is underneath the scarf as well, okay, and underneath the reindeer's head. So I'm going to get this scarf in place first. Remember, if you move anything, double check that you don't need to adjust other things before you put it down. I'm going to find the correct mitten. I'm going to go ahead and do the reindeer's antlers first because they go behind his head. It's not going to matter if they go in front of or behind his coat because the antlers or his head is going to go on top of that. So I'm not going to worry too much about that at the moment. His antlers go over top of Santa's hat. Okay. One more mitten that needs in place here. Okay. Now, before I do any final touches on this ironing, I'm going to use a pair of tweezers just to kind of make sure that everything is lined up. I'm using the tweezers to kind of slide or move things versus using my hand, because I just want to keep my sleeves from wandering. You could always use push pins. If you're working on the ironing board, you can use your straight pins to pin things down. So if you want to make sure that, you know, nothing moves, put a pin in it. Okay. I think I'm happy with where everything's kind of landed there. I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to carefully just set my iron down on top. I don't want to move it because I don't want anything to move. Doesn't need to be set there for a full count because we are not necessarily ironing this down permanently. We just want it to hold so that we can pick it up as one unit. So I'm going to carefully pick up my branch and move it to the side here. We're going to let Santa cool, so I'm going to slide him over so that I can build a house. So this is the base of our house here. So the base of our house, and then we have a roof is going to go next, and then after the roof we have the front gable-ish porch looking piece. And we also have a chimney. This piece. I can just see where the top of it should be, right peeking out up there. I'm actually going to move it down a little bit because this is the pink piece, the red piece. So I definitely want it to match on the left side and the bottom. And we have the roof of that piece. That goes there. Okay. I'm good with that, so I'm just going to tap all of that just for a second, just to hold that in place while I place my door, my wreath, my windows, and my windowsill. Okay. I'm going to slide this up just a little bit so that I can see. I'm keeping the edges lined up, but I'm looking for where the location of this door is. It doesn't matter where you put it, but I just want to kind of have it in the general idea. So I can see the door should be here. I'm going to line up my bottom with that, and I'm just going to tap that in place so it stays where it belongs. We have a wreath that goes above the door. If I look at this and I measure, he's about a 1/2 inch above the center of the door. So I'm going to put a 1/2 inch there. And again, it's your house. It's your Mistletoe Crossing house. Feel free to put your wreath anywhere you like. Okay, I'm good with that. Pop just a hot second right there. And then we have windows. Okay. I'm going to measure from the side of this front portion of the house to the edge of the window is a 1/2 inch. Okay. And down here on the bottom, there it's a 1/2 inch over, and let's see, it's about 1.25 inches up from the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to go 1.25 inches up from the bottom, and a 1/2 inch over from the edge of the house. Get my window. My one window in place, and I'm going to go ahead and take the windowsill and put him in place. Now, if you wanted, you could easily, for example, I could take my window. Come down here. You want to make sure everything lined up. I have my window there. I can put my window. I can take my windowsill. Let me just trim this thread up that's hanging off. I can get all that lined up in place. And then I can say from the bottom up, it's about 7/8 of an inch, and we're a 1/2 inch over. It's the bottom of that windowsill. Okay. Tap that one in place. And I'm going to repeat with my other window. Let me just go ahead and make him. It's the window. And if I measure, just a little bit bigger of a quarter than a 1/4 of an inch between the two windows. So I'm just going to lay 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to line up the edge of the windowsill so that when I put this down, I'm going to lay it so that the edge of the windowsill is at the edge of the ruler. And then pop that in place. Okay. Now all of your pieces should be fused together. So let me collect all this paper here. Clear it out, and then we're going to apply this to our background. Now, if you wanted, you could sew the checkerboard bottom on before you do the applique, but you don't have to. There is nothing else at the bottom of this item that would get caught in a seam allowance. So it's not absolutely necessary that you sew that on first. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to put down is my house. Okay, and if I look at the graphic here, or I look at the layout that she has here, the chimney of this house is just a little bit over this particular point. And then if I look here, he is about an inch up from the bottom of the fabric, bottom of our applique piece. Okay. So I'm going to come about an inch up from the bottom, I'm going to get my house situated so that it's just a little over, let me pull this down some. There we go. So an inch up. I'm a little over, straddling that seam. It's really up to you. Looks like our branch that we have going on here is, if I measure, he is about 3/4, about 7/8 of an inch up from the bottom of our house and about 5/8 of an inch over from the house. Okay. This is a location, a place where I find pins helpful because he is long and lanky. I like to pin sections down as I get it kind of curved out to where I want. Okay. So, do not panic over the fact that it looks like you missed a leaf or anything right here. This is the location of a button. Will go right there. Okay. All right. That little guy's touching just a little. All right, so I'm good with that. I'm going to peel Santa up here. Very carefully bring Santa and his reindeer. Oh my God, he's so cute. So cute. Santa, if we look at the graphic, he comes up, it's about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of our project. Overlaps the edge of our house a little. Okay. It does sit a tad lower than the house. I'm just kind of pivot him. I don't really want to leave a gap between the house and him right there because then that'll need to be blanket stitched. I'd rather just kind of cover that up. I'm going to make sure that I don't have anything around the outside edge that's inside of that final seam allowance because I don't want to sew into them. Okay. All right. Double check that I'm happy with everything, and then I'm going to work my way through adhering this down. So I'm going to start, just give it like a little count of 5 before I move. I'm not moving the iron once I set it down. You don't want to iron too long because you'll basically then burn the glue, and then the glue won't stick at all. And then you can flip it over if you want and tap it from the back as well. So you're closer to the glue. And then you have Mistletoe Crossing. At that point, I will take this over. I'll sew my checkerboard to the bottom, and then we'll be able to pile him away into our additional projects. There he is. He will get his checkerboard sewn to the bottom, and then for me, he'll get filed into the bag with all of our additional months that have been completed. So we have all sorts of beautiful things to come yet for Wander Lane. We have 3 months remaining of this project. We have Frost Hill, we have Loveland Cottage. And then the third month will be Assembly. Okay, so just a note. So that's, let's see, next month is April, May, so June will be our final month as we put together this project into our final quilt assembly. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. And I hope that this was helpful or you got something from it. I appreciate it for hanging in here with me. And if you have any questions while you are working on your Mistletoe Crossing, please feel free to reach out. At the present moment in time, if you are not part of our block of the month and do not already have a kit for this project, we are currently sold out of kits, but are working on trying to get them restocked. So just be on the lookout, and I hope that everyone has a great rest of your day, and we will see you back here next month for Frost Hill. Thank you, everyone.